Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in today. This is the Bodega Cat Book Club, and we are continuing our reading with the book by Yogananda, Paramahansa Yogananda, the Autobiography of a Yogi. And today we're going to start with chapter 16. So here we go. Chapter 16, Outwitting the Stars. Mukunda, why don't you get an astrological armlet? Should I, master? I don't believe in astrology. It is not a question of belief. The scientific attitude one should take on any subject is whether it is true. The law of gravitation worked as efficiently before Newton as after him. The cosmos would be fairly chaotic if its laws could not operate without the sanction of human belief. Charlatans have brought the ancient stellar science to its present disrepute. Astrology is too vast, both mathematically and philosophically, to be rightly grasped except by men of profound understanding. If ignoramuses misread the heavens and see there is a scroll instead of a script, that is to be expected in this imperfect world. And here is a footnote, long footnote on mathematics. From astronomical references in ancient Hindu literature, scholars have been able to ascertain the dates of the authors. The scientific knowledge of the rishis was very great. In the Kaushitaki Brahmana, we find precise astronomical passages indicating that in 3100 BC, the Hindus were far advanced in astronomy, which had a practical value in determining the auspicious times for astrological ceremonies. An article by Theravada in East West, February 1934, says of the Jyotish, or body of Vedic astronomical expositions, it contains the scientific lore that kept India at the forefront of all ancient nations and made her the Mecca of seekers after knowledge. Brahmagupta, one of the Jyotish works, is an astronomical treatise dealing with such matters as the heliocentric motion of the planetary bodies in our solar system, the obliquity of the ecliptic, the Earth's spherical form, the reflected light of the moon, the Earth's daily axial revolution, the presence of fixed stars in the Milky Way, the law of gravitation, and other scientific facts that did not dawn in the Western world until the time of Copernicus and Newton. The so-called Arabic numerals, invaluable in the development of Western mathematics, came to Europe in the 9th century via the Arabs from India, where that system of notation had been anciently formulated. Further light on India's vast scientific heritage would be found in Sir P.C. Roy's History of Hindu Chemistry, in B.N. Seal's Positive Sciences of the Ancient Hindus, in B.K. Sarkar's Hindu Achievements in Exact Science and his positive background of Hindu sociology, and in U.C. Dutt's Materia Medica of the Hindus. Continuing, one should not, one should not dismiss the wisdom with the wise. All parts of creation are linked together and interchange their influences. The balanced rhythm of the universe is rooted in reciprocity, my guru continued. Man, in his human aspect, has to combat two sets of forces. First, the tumults within his being, caused by the admixture of earth, water, air, fire, air, and ethereal elements. Second, the outer disintegrating powers of nature. So long as man struggles with his mortality, he is affected by the myriad mutations of heaven and earth. Astrology is the study of man's response to planetary stimuli. The stars have no conscious benevolence or animosity. They merely send forth positive and negative radiations. Of themselves, these do not help or harm humanity, but offer a lawful channel for the outward operation of cause-effect equilibriums that each man has set into motion in the past. A child is born on that day, And at that hour, when the celestial rays are in mathematical harmony with his individual karma, his horoscope is a challenging portrait, revealing his unalterable past and its probable future results. But the natal chart can be rightly interpreted only by men of intuitive wisdom. These are few. The message boldly blazoned across the heavens at the moment of birth is not meant to emphasize fate, the result of past good and evil, but to arouse man's will to escape from his universal thraldom. What he has done, he can undo. None other than himself was the instigator of the causes of whatever effects are now prevalent in his life. He can overcome any limitations because he created it by his own actions in the first place, and because he possesses spiritual resources that are not subject to planetary pressure. Superstitious awe of astrology makes one automation, slavishly dependent on mechanical guidance. The wise man defeats his planet, which is to say his past, by transferring his allegiance from the creation to the creator. The more he realizes his unity with spirit, the less he can be dominated by matter. The soul is ever free. It is deathless because birthless. It cannot be regimented by stars. Man is a soul, but has a body. When he properly places his sense of identity, he leaves behind all compulsive patterns. So long as he remains confused in his ordinary state of spiritual amnesia, he will know the subtle fetters of environmental law. God is harmony. The devotee who attunes himself will never perform any action amiss. His activities will be correctly and naturally timed to accord with astrological law. After deep prayer and meditation, he is in touch with his divine consciousness. There is no greater power than that inward protection. Then, dear master, why do you want me to wear astrological bangle? I ventured this question long after a long silence. I tried to assimilate Sri Yukteswar's noble exposition, which contained thoughts very new to me. It is only when a traveler has reached his goal, that he is justified in discarding his maps. During the journey, he takes advantage of any inconvenient shortcut. The ancient rishis discovered many ways to curtail the period of man's exile and delusion. There are certain mechanical features in the law of karma that can be skillfully adjusted by the fingers of wisdom. All human ills arise from some transgression of universal law. The scriptures point out that man must satisfy the laws of nature while not discrediting the divine omnipotence. He should say, Lord, I trust in thee, and know thou canst help me. But I too will do my best to undo any wrong I have done. By a number of means, by prayer, by willpower, by yoga meditation, by consultation with saints, by use of astrological bangles, the adverse effects of past wrongs can be minimized or nullified. Just as a house may be fitted with a copper rod to absorb the shocking of lightning, so the bodily temple can be protected in certain ways. Electrical and magnetic radiations are ceaselessly circulating in the universe. They affect man's body for good and ill. Ages ago, our rishis pondered the problem of combining the adverse effects of subtle cosmic influences. The sages discovered that pure metals emit an astral light which is powerfully counteractive to negative poles of the planets. Certain plant combinations were also found to be helpful. Most effective of all are faultless jewels of not less than 2 carats. The practical preventive uses of astrology have seldom been seriously studied outside of India. One little known fact is that proper jewels, metals, and plant preparations are valueless unless the required weight is secured and unless the remedial agent is worn next to the skin. Sir, of course I shall take your advice and get a bangle. I am intrigued at the thought of outwitting a planet. For general purposes, I counsel the use of an armlet made of gold, silver, and copper. But for specific purpose, I want you to get one of silver and lead. Sri Yukteswar added careful directions. Guruji, what specific purpose do you mean? The stars are about to take an unfriendly interest in you. Mukunda, fear not, you shall be protected. In about a month, your liver will cause you much trouble. The illness is scheduled to last for 6 months, but your use of an astrological armlet will shorten the period to 24 days. I sought out a jeweler the next day and was soon wearing the bangle. My health was excellent. Master's prediction slipped from my mind. He left Serampore to visit Benares. 30 days after our conversation, I felt a sudden pain in the region of my liver. The following weeks were a nightmare of excruciating pain. Reluctant to disturb my guru, I thought I would bravely endure my trial alone. But 23 days of torture weakened my resolution. I entrained for Benares. There, Sri Yukteswar greeted me with unusual warmth, but gave me no opportunity to tell him my woes in private. Many devotees visited Master that day just for a dakshan. Dakshan, here's a footnote, is the blessing that flows from the mere sight of a saint. Ill and neglected, I sat in a corner. It was not until after the evening meal that all guests have departed. My guru summoned me to the octagonal balcony of the house. You must have come about your liver disorder. Sri Yukteswar's gaze was averted. He walked to and fro, occasionally intercepting the moonlight. Let me see, you have been ailing for 24 days, haven't you? Yes, sir. Please do the stomach exercise I taught you. If you knew the extent of my suffering, Master, you would not ask me to exercise. Nevertheless, I made a feeble attempt to obey him. You say you have pain. I say you have none. How can such contradictions exist? My guru looked at me inquiringly. I was dazed and then overcome with joyful relief. No longer could I feel the continuous torment that had kept me nearly sleepless for weeks. Yet Sri Yukteswar's words, the agony vanished as though it had never been. I started to kneel at his feet in gratitude, but he quickly prevented me. Don't be childish. Get up and enjoy the beauty of the moon over the Ganges. But Master's eyes were twinkling happily as I stood in silence beside him. I understood by his attitude that he wanted me to feel that not he, but God had been the healer. I wear even now the heavy silver and lead bangle, a memento of that day, long past, ever cherished, when I found anew that I was living with a personage indeed superhuman. On later occasions, when I brought my friends to Sri Yukteswar for healing, he invariably recommended jewels or the bangle, extolling their use as an act of astrological wisdom. And here is a footnote for the bangle. See page 261 notes. I have been prejudiced against astrology from my childhood, partly because I observe that many people are sequaciously attached to it, and partly because of the prediction made by our family astrologer. You will marry 3 times, being twice a widower. I brooded over the matter, feeling that a goat awaiting sacrifice before the temple of triple matrimony. You may as well be resigned to your fate, my brother Ananta had remarked. Your written horoscope has correctly stated that you would fly from home toward the Himalayas during your early years and would be forcibly returned. The forecast of your marriages is also bound to be true. A clear intuition came to me one night that the prophecy was wholly false. I set fire to the horoscope scroll, placing the ashes in a paper bag on which I wrote, seeds of past karma cannot germinate if they are roasted in the fires of divine wisdom. I put the bag in the conspicuous spot. Ananta immediately read my defiant comment. You cannot destroy truth as easily as you have burnt this paper scroll, my brother laughed scornfully. It is a fact that on 3 occasions before I reached manhood, my family tried to arrange my betrothal. Each time I refused to fall in with the plans, knowing that my love for God was more overwhelming than any astrological persuasion from the past. And here is a footnote. One of the girls whom my family selected as a possible bride for me afterward married my cousin, Prabhas Chandra Ghosh. Sri Ghosh was vice president of Yogoda Satsanga Society of India. See pages 420 to 422 from 1936 until his death in 1975. Okay, here, the deeper self-realization of a man, the more he influences the whole universe by his subtle spiritual vibrations, and the less he himself is affected by the phenomenal flux. These words of masters often return inspiringly to my mind. Occasionally, I told astrologers to select my worst periods according to planetary indications, and I would still accomplish whatever task I set myself. It is true that any success at such times has been preceded by extraordinary difficulties, but my conviction has always been justified. Faith in divine protection and right use of man's God-given will are forces more formidable than the influences flowing from the heavens. The starry inscription at one's birth, I came to understand, is not that man is a puppet of his past. Its message is rather a prod to pride. The very heavens seek to arouse man's determination to be free from every limitation. God created each man as a soul, dowered with individuality, hence essential to the universal structure, whether in the temporary role of pillar or parasite. His freedom is final and immediate. If he so wills, it depends not on outer but inner victories. Sri Yukteswar discovered the mathematical application of a 24,000-year equinoctial cycle to our present age. Here is a footnote. These cycles are expounded in the first part of Sri Yukteswar's book, The Holy Science, published by Self-Realization Fellowship. The cycle is divided into an ascending arc and a descending arc, each of 12,000 years. Within each arc fall 4 yugas or ages called Kali, Dwapara, Treta, and Satya, corresponding to the Greek ideas of iron, bronze, silver, and golden ages. My guru determined by various calculations that the last Kali Yuga, or Iron Age, of the ascending arc started around AD 500. The Iron Age, 1200 years in duration, is a span of materialism. It ended about AD 1700. That year ushered in Dwapara Yuga, a 2400-year period of electrical and atomic energy development, the age of telegraphy, radio, airplanes, and other space annihilators. The 3600-year period of Treta Yuga will start in AD 4100. The age will be marked by common knowledge of telepathic communications and other time annihilators. During the 4,800 years of Satya Yuga, final age in an ascending arc, the intelligence of man will be highly developed. He will work in harmony with the divine plan. A descending arc of 12,000 years, starting with a descending golden age of 4,800 years, then begins for the world in AD 12,500. Man gradually sinks into ignorance. These cycles are the eternal rounds of Maya, the contrasts and relativities of the phenomenal universe. Here is a footnote. The Hindu scriptures place the present world age as occurring within the Kali Yoga of a much longer universal cycle than the simple 24,000-year equinoctial cycle with which Sri Yukteswar was concerned. The universal cycle of the scriptures is that billion? 4,300,560,000 years in extent, and measures out a day of creation. This vast figure is based on the relationship between the length of the solar year and a multiple of pi, 3.1416, the ratio of the circumference to the diameter of a circle. The lifespan for a whole universe, according to the ancient seers, is, oh boy, is that billion? 314, or trillion, maybe trillion? 314 trillion, 159 billion solar years, or one age of Brahma. Hope I read that right. The Hindu scriptures declare that the earth, such as ours, is dissolved for one of two reasons. The inhabitants as a whole become either completely good or completely evil. The world mind thus generates a power that releases the captive atoms held together as an earth. Dire pronouncements are occasionally published regarding an imminent end of the world. Planetary cycles, however, proceed according to an orderly divine plan. No earthly dissolution is in sight. Many ascending and descending equinoctial cycles are yet in store for our planet in its present form. Okay, going back here. Men, one by one, escape from creation's prison of duality as they awaken to consciousness of their inseparable divine unity with the Creator. Master enlarged my understanding not only of astrology, but of the world's scriptures. Placing the holy texts on the spotless table of his mind, he was able to dissect them with the scalpel of intuitive reasoning, and to separate errors and interpolations of scholars from the truths as originally expressed by the prophets. Fix one's vision on the end of the nose, the inaccurate interpretation of a Bhagavad Gita stanza, widely accepted by Eastern pundits and Western translators, used to arouse Master's droll criticism. And here is a footnote on the Bhagavad Gita stanza, chapter 6, 13. The path of a yogi is singular enough as it is, he remarked. Why counsel him that he must also make himself cross-eyed? The true meaning of nasikagram is origin of the nose, not end of the nose. The nose originates at the point between the eyebrows, the seat of spiritual vision. Here's a footnote on that. The light of the body is the eye. Therefore, when thine eye is single, thy whole body is also is full of light. But when thine eye is evil, thy body also is full of darkness. Take heed, therefore, that the light which is in thee be not darkness. Luke chapter 11, 34, 35. I apologize for all the back and forth, but I just want to make sure you guys can see. One Sankha aphorism reads, Ashwa at Siddhi. Okay, let me finish this paragraph here. A Lord of creation cannot be deducted, or God is not proved. Chiefly on the basis of this sentence, most scholars call the whole philosophy atheistical. And here is a footnote on the two. One of the 6 systems of Hindu philosophy, Sankhya teaches final emancipation through knowledge of 25 principles, starting with Prakriti or nature and ending with Purusha or soul. And the other footnote on Ishwar Asiddhi is Sarha Aphorisms, 192. The verse is not atheistical, Sri Yukteswar explained. It merely signifies that to the enlightened man, dependent on his senses for all final judgments, proof of God must remain unknown and therefore non-existent. True Satya followers with unshakable insight born of meditation understand that the Lord is both existent and knowable. Master compounded the Christian Bible with a beautiful clarity. It was from my Hindu guru, unknown to the roll call of Christian membership, that I learned to perceive the deathless essence of the Bible and to understand the truth in Christ's assertion. Surely the most thrillingly intransigent ever uttered, heaven and earth shall pass away, but my words shall not pass away. And that is from Matthew 24:35. The great masters of India mold their lives by the same godly ideals that animated Jesus. These men are his proclaimed kin. Whosoever shall do the will of my Father, which is in heaven, the same is my brother and sister and mother. And that's from Matthew 12, chapter 12, verse 50. If ye continue in my word, Christ pointed out, then are ye my disciples indeed, and ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Here's a footnote about that. John chapter 8, 31, 32. St. John testified, but as many as received him, to them gave he power to become the sons of God, even to them that believe on his name, even to them that are established in the omnipresent Christ consciousness. John chapter 1, verse 12. Free men, lords of themselves, the Yogi Christs of India, are part of the immortal fraternity, those that attain a liberating knowledge of the one Father. The Adam and Eve story is incomprehensible to me. I observed with considerable heat one day in my early struggles with the allegory. Why did God punish not only the guilty pair, but also the innocent unborn generations? Master was amused, more by my vehemence than by my ignorance. Genesis is deeply symbolic. It cannot be and cannot be grasped by literal interpretation, he explained. Its tree of life is the human body. The spinal cord is like an upturned tree with man's hair as its roots and afferent and efferent nerves as branches. The tree of the nervous system bears many enjoyable fruits or sensations of sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. In these, man may rightfully indulge, but he was forbidden in the experience of sex, the apple at the center of the body, in the midst of the garden. Here is a footnote. We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God hath said, ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die. Genesis chapter 3, verse 2 and 3. The serpent represents the coiled up spinal energy that stimulates the sex nerves. Adam is reason, and Eve is feeling. When the emotion or Eve consciousness in any human being is overpowered by the sex impulse, his reason for Adam also succumbs. Here is a footnote. The woman whom thou gavest to me to be with me, she gave me of the tree, and I did eat. The woman said, the serpent beguiled me, and I did eat. Genesis chapter 3, verse 12 and 13. God created the human species by materializing the bodies of man and woman through the force of his will. He endowed the new species with the power to create children in a similar immaculate or divine manner. Here's a footnote. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. And God blessed them, and God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth and subdue it. Genesis chapter 1, verse 27, 28. Because his manifestation in the individualized soul had hitherto been limited to animals, Instinct-bound and lacking the potentialities of full reason, God made the first human bodies, symbolically called Adam and Eve. To these, for advantageous upward evolution, he transferred the souls or divine essence of two animals. And here is a footnote. And the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. Genesis chapter 2, verse 7. In Adam or man, reason predominated. In Eve or woman, feeling was ascendant. Thus was expressed the duality or polarity that underlies the phenomenal worlds. Reason and feeling remain in a heaven of cooperative joy as long as the human mind is not tricked by the serpentine energy of animal propensities. The human body was therefore not solely a result of evolution from beasts, but was produced through an act of special creation by God. The animal forms were too crude to express full divinity. Man was uniquely given the potentiality omniscient thousand-petaled lotus in the brain, as well as acutely awakened occult centers in the spine. God, or the divine consciousness present within the first created pair, counseled them to enjoy all human sensibilities with one exception, sex sensations. Here is a footnote. Now the serpent sex force was more subtle than any beast of the field, any other sense of the body. Genesis chapter 3, verse 1. Okay. These were banned, lest humanity enmesh itself in the inferior animal method of propagation. The warning not to revive subconsciously present bestial memories was unheeded. Resuming the way of brute procreation, Adam and Eve fell from the state of heavenly joy natural to the original perfect man. When they knew that they were naked, their consciousness of immortality was lost. Even as God had warned them, they had placed themselves under the physical law by which bodily birth must be followed by bodily death. The knowledge of good and evil promised Eve by the serpent refers to the dualistic and oppositional experiences that mortals under Maya must undergo. Falling into delusion through misuse of his feelings and reason, or Eve and Adam consciousness, man relinquishes his right to enter the heavenly garden of divine self-sufficiency. The personal responsibility of every human being is to restore his parents' or dual nature to unified harmony or Eden. Here is a footnote on self-sufficiency. And the Lord God placed a garden eastward in Eden, and there he put the man whom he had formed. Genesis chapter 2, verse 8. Therefore the Lord God sent him forth from the Garden of Eden to till the ground from whence he was taken. Genesis chapter 3:23. The divine man first made by God had his consciousness centered in the omnipotent single eye in the forehead, eastward. The all-creative powers of his will focused on that spot were lost to man when he began to till the ground of his physical nature. Sri Yukteswar ended his discourse. I glanced with new respect at the pages of Genesis. Dear Master, I said, for the first time I feel a proper filial obligation toward Adam and Eve. And here's a footnote. The Adam and Eve story of the Hindus is recounted in the Hori Purana, Srimad Bhagavata. The first man and woman, beings in physical form, are called Swayambhuva Manu, man born of the Creator, and his wife, Shatarupa, having 100 images or forms. Their 5 children intermarried with Prajupatas, perfect beings who could assume corporeal form. From these first divine families was born the human race. Never in East or West have I heard anyone else expound the Christian scriptures with so deep a spiritual insight as Sri Yukteswar's. Theologians have misinterpreted Christ's words, Master said. In such passages as I am the way, the truth, and the life, no man cometh unto the Father but by me, John 14:6, Jesus meant never that he was the sole Son of God, but that no man can attain the unqualified absolute, the transcendent Father beyond creation until he has first manifested the Son, or activating Christ consciousness within creation. Jesus, who had achieved entire oneness with that Christ consciousness, identified himself with it inasmuch as his own ego had long since been dissolved. See page 163 note. When Paul wrote, God created all things by Jesus Christ, Ephesians 3:9. And when Jesus said, before Abraham was, I am, John 8:58, the sheer essence of the words was impersonality. A form of spiritual cowardice leads many worldly people to believe comfortably that only one man was the Son of God. Christ was uniquely created, they reason, so how can I, a mere mortal, emulate him? But all men have been divinely created and must someday obey Christ's command. Be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father which is in heaven is perfect. Matthew 5:48. Behold, what manner of love the Father hath bestowed upon us, that we should be called the sons of God. 1 John 3:1. Understanding the law of karma and its corollary, reincarnation, see page 289, note 356 to 357, and chapter 43, is displayed in numerous biblical passages, e.g., whoso sheddeth man's blood, by man shall his blood be shed. Genesis 9:6. If every murderer must himself be killed by man, the reactive process obviously requires, in many cases, more than one lifetime. The contemporary police are just not quick enough. The early Christian church accepted the doctrine of reincarnation, which was expounded by the Gnostics and by numerous church fathers, including Clement of Alexandria, and celebrated Origen, both 3rd century, and St. Jerome, 5th century. The doctrine was first declared a heresy in AD 553 by the Second Council of Constantinople. At that time, many Christians thought the doctrine of reincarnation afforded man too ample a stage of time and space to encourage him to strive for immediate salvation. But truth suppressed led disconcertingly to a host of errors. The millions have not utilized their one lifetime to seek God, but to enjoy this world, to uniquely want, and so shortly to be forever lost. The truth is that man reincarnates on earth until he has consciously regained his status as a son of God. End of chapter 16.